All right, we're live just like that, everybody. Happy Friday to everybody. Make sure I go live everywhere else. Anthony is taking a quick break, if you want to look at it that way. Not really, not that you're not working, Anthony, but he is working on everything that we have been doing for the last 24 hours. If you're the first time joining us, we had a great guest on yesterday. And Anna Escamani, who's a representative who is running for mayor of Orlando. And we're going to be having that content come out today at 5 o'clock. So Anthony and a couple of the members of the team are working hard to make sure that we get some great stuff there for you later on this afternoon. I'm going to be going through here on the live show all the news you need to know, especially if you're living in the state of Florida, going into the weekend, the stuff that you're not going to hear anywhere else. And so very happy that you decided to join us. If you want to catch these episodes, The Patrick Carr Show, go over to YouTube. We've got all of them. We'll have the interview coming up. Anna Escamani dropping today at 5 o'clock. A lot of great content to come out of that. She is the front runner for mayor right now, for the next mayor here in Orlando. All right, our first story right here is one that really is for everybody who's a Floridian, all right? It has to do with two people that you've probably never heard of, but we've talked about extensively on this show, and both of them, especially if you live in the state of Florida, all right, have an effect on your life. The names of them are James Uthmeyer and a woman by the name of Monique Worrell. Now, if you haven't heard of these two, James Uthmeyer is a Florida's attorney general. He is the top lawyer for the entire state. He was appointed to the job, not elected. Now, contrast that, you've got Monique Worrell is the elected state attorney for the Ninth Judicial Circuit, which oversees Orange and Osceola counties. She is the local prosecutor, so her office decides what charges to file and what plea deals to offer. Now, I want to talk about this story, and history does matter. Governor Ron DeSantis actually suspended Worrell back in 2023, and then voters voted her back into office in January of 2025. And all of this fighting is going on between these two individuals. The state's top attorney over here who's appointed, and then the elected official right over here, Monique Worrell. And it all really stems from something called the Youthful Offender Act. It lets the courts give someone under 21 a lighter sentence, capped at 6 years, to give young people a chance to turn their life around. Now, both sides argue one key point, that it's the judge, not the prosecutor, who decides how the sentence is handed down. Now, Uthmeyer has sent Worrell a bunch of public letters accusing her office of what he calls extreme leniency towards people charged with murder and sex crimes. His main example is a person by the name of Marcus Anderson. This was a big case back in December of 2024 at age 18, after the teen shot and killed at age 18 after a teen was shot and killed. A grand jury indicted him on first-degree murder and armed robbery, charges that could have brought the death penalty. He was found guilty of a lesser charge of second-degree murder, and the robbery charge was dropped. He got just 4 years as a youthful offender. Uthmeyer calls these kind of things sweetheart plea deals. Now, Worrell's office says youthful offender status is set by state law and decided by a judge, not prosecutors, and that plea deals depend on how strong the evidence is. She argues the real gap in Florida law is between the juvenile system and the adult system, and that Uthmeyer wants tougher outcomes. His fix is with the legislature, not with her. She also accuses him of manufacturing outrage. So I wanted to jump into this because we live in Central Florida here, and we talk about what happens in Central Florida quite a bit. And so the name of old Monique Worrell comes up quite a bit. And I want to just paint this picture for everybody, if you may not live in Florida, who this woman is. So she's in office, and her and DeSantis basically don't see the eye on anything, okay? So DeSantis is like, suspend this person. I don't want her overseeing anything in my state. Well, voters go, well, we actually like her over here. We're going to put her back into office, and they vote her in. In my opinion, she got a lot of sympathy. She went out there and almost, in my opinion, on the campaign trail and said, I deserve to be in this position, and you can vote me back in, and you make sure that I'm that person. It appears to me that DeSantis is kind of rolling his eyes and being like, you got to be kidding me. They put this woman back into any kind of position of authority. And for the most part, I think DeSantis is like backing off, but the state's attorney, James Uthmeyer, is not. Because when people look at Monique Worrell, everybody knows the same thing. The woman is soft on crime. Period. Hard stop. End of story. If and everybody who's in Central Florida knows the woman is soft on crime. And if we were being honest here, a lot of people who watch our show who have written me say that a lot of that softness on crime can often be found in not only the age of somebody, but in their race and where they live within the city. And people have said this. That's not what I've said. I've gotten literally message after message from people who say, depending on who you are, how old you are, if they think that Monique Worrell likes you, will determine what kind of leniency you get shown. Do I say that that's the case? I don't know. I've never met the woman. I have no idea how she is in person. But what I do know is the overarching sentiment in this state, which is in the center of the state where Monique Worrell has her jurisdiction, things are light, that you can get off. And then unless you put pressure on the case, she ain't doing jack. I mean, we're going to talk about a case here a little bit later, which is the case of Millie Ortiz. This is another case just like that, where I think that if we don't start the pressure up like we did a couple of months ago on that case, I think it just falls to the wayside because Monique Worrell decided not to press charges and move forward with anything against the officer in question. This is happening all over Central Florida, and I think it's very clear that while you have a DeSantis administration that wants to be very tough on crime, you have them that want to be a state of law and order. You have somebody in the center of the state who doesn't share those same beliefs and values. That is why she was suspended a couple of years ago, but unfortunately now she is back in office. I'm going to be very clear. I am personally not a fan of Monique Worrell. I think she's a weak individual. I do think that she shows favoritism from what I've seen. And yeah, I don't like her. Now, that's not to say she's a bad person. I don't like her for the position. And I'm sure that if I met her, maybe she'd be a nice person and we would get along well. But I'm looking at this and I have to agree with James Uthmeyer that when you see people that do heinous things, terrible things, all right, you need to hold them accountable. Even yesterday, as I spoke with Representative Escamani, we had a disagreement yesterday over how, incarceration versus basically empathy for people. I can't remember the exact words that we used. I believe in incarceration. I think that if you make terrible mistakes like this, we're talking about real terrible stuff. This is beyond where you go ahead and you rehabilitate people. This person deserves to spend their life in prison. You murdered somebody first degree. Yes, you get a robbery charge drop, but you go 25 to life easy. We cannot live in a state where people think, I could get away with it. Because as soon as that begins to enter somebody's mind, what you end up getting is you get people who go, all right, I'm going to try it. I'm going to do something stupid. You want to live in a state where law and order reigns, and they know that if I go out there and do something stupid, I'm going to pay the ultimate price with my life behind bars if I do something that's that stupid. You don't want kids who are teenagers thinking, well, I'm a teenager, I could get away with it, and I'll do a max of 4 years. I'm going to go do what I want to do. Screw it. We don't want that sentiment entering into the state of Florida, nor should any state want that. Hold people accountable. And what people will respond to is strength, law and order, the police, and prosecuting crimes. People will see that, youth will see that, and we will have a better society and a better Central Florida. I mean, we were very upset. For those of you who are not heard, about a week ago, there was a case in Florida where two groups of people were fighting in the middle of a very busy street in downtown Orlando. One of them, a guy walks up in the fight and hits a woman. Well, that woman's brother happened to be a part of the group and got very upset about his sister being hit. He goes ahead and brandishes a firearm and decides he's going to pistol whip the guy who hit his sister. And in the course of doing so, the idiot has the gun go off and shoots his own sister in the foot. I can't make this stuff up. All right. Like that literally happened last week in Orlando. And I think about a week and a half ago, somewhere around in there. So about a week and a half ago. And then last week, we have a guy who picked a gun up out of a trash can and shot it off in the middle of downtown Orlando. It's happening all the time. But my point of this is to say that that individual was not arrested at the time. He was detained, but not arrested. Imagine that we have guns going off, people being shot, and yet people are not arrested. And I think, and I'm going to give this show and our viewers some credit. We are the main reason that anything ever happened. We put out videos that got literally hundreds of thousands of views when it comes to the shorts. And in the course of doing that, we started to call people out of going, why are people arrested here? Why are people detained and released in this case? And it was, I believe, the following Wednesday morning. So maybe about a week ago, that Wednesday. It's Friday right now. So maybe 9 days ago. The OPD sent out their fugitive task force and actually did go get this guy days after the shooting happened. But my point is to say we need to live in a county and in an area where youth knows and people know that we are going to be tough on crime. And when you're tough on crime, people get the point very quickly. Anybody who's thinking about doing something stupid goes, not worth it to me. And what we have here is Uthmeyer versus Worrell. And what I want Worrell hopefully to get the point that enough is enough. Start to be tough on people, not just with the Youthful Offender Act, but start to be tough on the people that are causing all the BS downtown in Orlando. Start to be tough on people that are fighting. Be tough on people that have guns they shouldn't have. Be tough on people that are loitering. Be tough on people that are underage drinking. Be tough on this. Start being tough on crime. And what will happen is, what do you know? Crime will go down. But I think what has happened in the city of Orlando, for those of you who don't know, if you go and ask the city of Orlando or the leadership in Orlando about crime, they're going to cite off crime statistic like you wouldn't believe. They'll tell you robberies are down, violent crime is down, homicides are 100% solved and they're down. All of these great statistics that they will rack off. Arrests are down. I mean, you name it. And so part of me tends to believe that what has been going on from Worrell's office is that they don't want the numbers to spike. And what I would say is, in order to get this city back under control, we need to see a spike in numbers. We need to see people that are prosecuted, and we need to see people spend time in jail. Because if we do that, the rest of the city is going to get the message. Because right now in her district, in the 9th Circuit, I'm telling you, people believe she is weak on crime. And that's not going to change the downtown landscape. Now, today, I don't have Anthony to go to for a comment. Like I said, he is working. So I'm going to move my way into story number 2 for you all. Now, this one's coming out of Tampa, all right? The Tampa Bay Rays, if you haven't heard, they want to build a $2.3 billion ballpark. And they want to do it over on Dow Mabry at the Hillsborough Community College campus. I know exactly where that is. It's right next to Raymond James Stadium where the Bucks play. They are asking the government for close to $1 billion in public money. And it would be the biggest taxpayer commitment to the stadium in the region's history. Now, I want to just kind of talk about what this looks like, and we can kind of go through a timeline, but it's real easy to understand what's happening right here. The Rays are over in St. Pete. The stadium is Tropicana Field. The stadium was never meant to be the end-all be-all for the Tampa Rays, or at that time the Tampa Bay Rays when it was built. It was always meant to be a very temporary thing because the Tampa Bay Rays have never been in Tampa, all right? They've always been over in St. Pete, and that is not a short drive, everybody. It'd be like having an Orlando team, and they were in, I don't know, the Villages. They're not really in Orlando at all. And the Rays have new ownership, and the new ownership is like, listen, we want to come and we want to build and we want to stay here in Tampa, but we need taxpayers to foot some bill right now. We need the city to come up with some money. We'll foot in some, city will put in the rest. We need to stay here. And then that moves us over right next to the Bucks, and we'll have this nice little area right there where we can have the stadium, we can have where the Rays play, and we've kind of got a little foothold right there for sports in Tampa. Hillsborough Community College, they approved it. Hillsborough Community was like, yeah, this sounds good. All right, we think it's going to be great. Probably good for our college. Going to get a lot of people seeing our campus. Going to get a lot of people over in this area. So let's go ahead and move forward with this thing. The college approves a 99-year ground lease at like $10 a year because they like the idea of this thing. And we should be moving forward, right? Well, kind of. What's happening right here, everybody, is that the city has been putting up a fight back and forth about how much money they're going to be willing to put up. The Rays claim that they're going to bring so much business and so much taxable income into the city that this shouldn't even be a question of what's going on. I tend to agree with the Rays. I want you to imagine the Rays game in this beautiful multi-billion-dollar stadium in downtown or close to downtown Tampa, with right next to where the Bucks play. Imagine all the restaurants, bars, entertainment that's going to be built around this. There's already stuff that's built around where the Bucks play, but not nearly as much as there could be. They need more development. Now, for those of you who've never been down in that area, I'm going to say what the truth is, which is that it is known for its strip clubs around the Tampa Bay Stadium, around the Bucks Stadium. So if you go ahead like Scores and some of the others, if you've been down there, but if we go ahead and we build the Rays new stadium down there, what you're going to find is that you're going to get more family establishments around there. You're going to get more restaurants, more venues that people can go out to eat, more Buffalo Wild Wings if you want to look at it that way. And that's great for the economy. And the Rays are looking at it going, hey, guys, we want to stay here. We love Tampa. We think Tampa's a great market for us. But we need to get our stadium over into Tampa, and we need your help to make that happen. And I have to admit, I think that the economic benefit of the Rays right there in Tampa far outweighs whatever half-cent tax needs to be put on Tampa Bay residents. I can tell you this. If they had to go ahead and give us a half-cent tax in Orlando, that would mean that we get a revitalization of our downtown over here and something that we could reasonably be proud of. I'd be like, sign me up for 10 cents, everybody, because we want to make sure that everything is great in downtown. But I believe that what we have right now is this fight over in Tampa between the government going, we don't want to give as much money. You should give more, you billionaires. And the billionaires going, hey, listen, we're going to bring in so much damn money. You should just be happy that we're going to stay in your city, Tampa. And both of them are kind of looking at each other in a pissing match right now, trying to decide which one's going to give more. In the end, I think the stadium gets built. It'll be right there in the heart of Tampa. Hillsborough Community College will have a great addition right there, and it's going to be a win-win for everybody. I think the stadium should open probably going to be in 2029 if I had to take a wild guess right there. And I think it would be a good win for the Tampa Bay area. By the way, if you want to see what a disaster of a stadium would be, one of the things you can contrast this with is what happened to the Miami Marlins Stadium that opened in 2012. I mean, it has been an absolute disaster down there. Whatever they did, just do the exact opposite in Tampa. If you've ever been to a Marlins game, the idea behind it was that they were going to build kind of like a little Havana around that Miami Marlins stadium, and it was going to get built up, and it was going to be culturally an incredible place. Well, that has surely not been the case. Go down to a Marlins game. They've got, first of all, the team is terrible. The stadium is empty. I mean, they tried to make it very Miami, but in the end, it just doesn't work. They need a better team. They need a better surrounding area. And if that's what they do with the Tampa Bay Rays, it's going to be a disaster. So just do exact opposite of Miami, and I think you're going to be just fine. All right, everybody. The next one is coming to us from Southwest Florida. It's actually coming to us from the Everglades. I don't know if you know this, everyone, but the details are here, and they are in. We've got the Florida Python Challenge is kicking off today. The Florida Python Challenge runs from July the 10th through July the 19th, and it's got $25,000 in prizes available to you. It costs $25 to register, and you have to pass a training course first. Now, what exactly is this, okay? It is a state-run contest where average people and pros compete to remove the invasive Burmese pythons from the Everglades, with a $10,000 grand prize for whoever catches the most pythons. This is not the first time they have done this, everyone. It is actually the 9th time the event has been held, run by the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission and the South Florida Water Management District. I was just laughing when I read this story, okay? There are 8 official hunting locations. They're all right down there in South Florida. And this year, Everglades National Park is back as a partner. So you could be a novice. You can be, I guess there are professional snake trappers that actually join this thing. But what I want everyone to know is that they're getting out there and they are killing themselves some python for the next week. Since the beginning of this 9-year run of this challenge, 1,406 have been removed. Last year's contest set a record at 294 pythons that were removed. Since 2000, more than 27,000 Burmese pythons have been removed from Florida. So this competition removes quite a bit of those. I mean, just in 1 week right here. Last year's winner, Taylor Stanberry, removed 60 pythons and became the first woman to win the top prize. Now, there is a weird rule, which I was just like, what? To win the longest snake prize, the python can be no more than 2 pieces, and you got to have the head. All right. Now, it talks in here about you not being able to use guns. So I want everyone to think about that. They say that the python has to be killed humanely. There's only one other way to do it, everybody, and that's with a knife. All right. So this is not for the faint of heart, everyone. This is going to be something to where I think that we're talking about knives, maybe bows here, maybe traps that people are setting. Obviously, that's going to be a big one. But this is not something where someone's taking a rifle out there and just going around and just shooting from 20 feet away or 20 yards away. This is a little bit different than that. I'm surprised that something like this is still going on. It would seem to me that within 9 years, there would have been somebody stupid who decided to get too close to some 20-foot python or something and lost their life, or something terrible was to happen. But they are still doing this competition right now, the Florida Python Challenge, kicking off today, July the 10th through July the 19th. Get ready to see yourself some pythons that come out of that thing, all right? Next thing I want to talk about is TPS. Now, this has got some people in Miami and Tampa pretty worked up, and I didn't understand it, so I want to help you understand why so many people right now are worked up about this thing called TPS. It stands for Temporary Protection Status. It's a program that lets immigrants from certain countries live and work legally in the United States when the government decides it is not safe to send them home. Usually because of war, disaster, they can't go home for some reason that is dangerous. It was created in 1990 law. TPS does not give somebody a green card or a path to citizenship. So as early as 2025, about 1.3 million people had TPS in the United States. And the 2 biggest groups are Haitians and Syrians. Haiti was designated after 2010 earthquake, killed more than 300,000 people, and Syria was designated in 2012 after a civil war began. Now, in June of this year, the Supreme Court ruled that the Trump administration could end TPS for Haitian and Syrian nationals. Protections began expiring on July 1st, so just about a week ago. And roughly 350,000 Haitians and 6,000 Syrians have been affected nationally, with their status now in a temporary limbo. So why is this a big deal here in Florida? Well, it has to do, everybody, with the 158,000 Haitians that are protected in Florida by TPS, and roughly 113,000 of them work where? In healthcare. And a statewide hospitality group says the ruling affects about 93,000 workers in Florida, and estimates TPS holders add about $2.6 billion a year to the state's economy. So what you have here, everybody, is you have a state that has healthcare and hospitality at the forefront. And when you end programs like this, it begins people to go a little bit uneasy about their status. So I think what you have to look at is, and it speaks to a bigger issue on this show, is somebody who is here illegally, should they be able to work and go about and live their life? And in my opinion, the answer is absolutely. My problem is not with somebody who's Haitian, who's here working in a hotel in Miami, doing the hard work of cleaning a hotel or working at a front desk or making things happen for their family. I'm not worried about a Syrian who's doing the same thing. They're out there and they're trying to make things happen. I believe that the problem, and I think that a lot of people would agree with me, with immigration and illegal immigration are the people that are here, number one, illegally, don't get me wrong, but those people that are out there committing crimes, more importantly, violent crimes. And so when I see this, I feel for the individuals like this. You may have come here after a terrible disaster in Haiti. You've come here, you've started a family. Now you get that status removed, and you're sitting there going, hold on, if I am going to be, I don't know, let's just say going to work, if I get pulled over, do I risk the chance of being deported? What's going to happen to me and my family if I can't provide, if I have to go to jail? These are real questions that thousands of Floridians are facing right now. And we can have the argument separately about whether they should even be here in the first place. But what I want to focus on is that we had something in place. That thing has been revoked, and it leaves people here that are in a temporary status. That's not, now, fair is such a terrible word to use in this world because we know that things in life are never fair, are they? But imagine being that individual where you have status, you're good, you've started your life here, you started a family, you're working and you're moving up, you've bought a house, you've done all this stuff, and now all of a sudden that status is removed. You know in your mind, all right, you would be getting into your car the next morning, you would be going to work thinking, if I get pulled over for speeding, am I actually gonna just get a ticket, or do I risk getting deported? Now I've got my kids in school, my wife who's at another job. What's gonna happen with that? Those are real thoughts that Floridians have right now. I don't like this being rescinded the way that it was. When you rescind something like this, you have to do something for the people that are already here. You can't just leave a person in limbo and go, all right, we're just going to kind of figure this out as we go. What is that person supposed to do? Leave their life right here that they've built in Florida and go, hey, I'm working. I've been working for almost 10 years at a company, and now I'm going to have to be forced to leave because now, as of 1 week ago, I'm not legally here, but 2 weeks ago, I was legally here. You've got to see how there's a catch 22 for that person. And if you can't show empathy for the situation that they're in, you've got a problem, everybody. Because we have to be able to show empathy for people, and we can agree that we can be tough on illegal immigration. But these people are here. They came here legally. They're sitting here and working, and we're not giving a secondary path for them to do anything about it. That's where my problem lies. Not in the law itself, not in revoking the TPS, but what we should be doing is revoking it, great, and then saying, yes, and we have a problem here that we need to deal with. So this is one of those circumstances, and we talk about it all the time on the show. If you're looking for somebody in a show and a person that's always going to be black and white and it's always going to go, Republicans got it right, Democrats got it wrong, you're on the wrong show, because life isn't that way, is it? How many of us deal with things every day where there's a gray area? There's what we call nuance all the time around here. There's nuance in everything. There's nuance in your relationships. There's nuance in the job that you do. There's nuance in the service you provide to your customers, everything. I mean, heck, there is nuance in agreements that we sign. I mean, and then people have disagreements about that. And we have court systems completely devoted to contracts. So somebody signs a contract and they still have disputes over it. Of course, we're going to have disputes over things like this. And that's okay. We have story number 5. We're going out to Cape Coral, everybody, and we're talking about a viral story that has to do with AI garbage truck cameras. Now, this is only being discussed in Cape Coral. There's news going around that this is actually happening right now. It is being discussed, and in my opinion, I think it's going to go through, but it has not actually happened. Now, if you haven't heard, what they are attempting to do in Cape Coral is attach AI cameras onto garbage trucks with the hope that they'll be able to find problems in the city that they can find, all right? Like overgrown grass, illegal dumping, junk in the yard, work done without a permit, all right? There's a city leader named Mike, I can't never pronounce his last name, said that the city already has the right to do this and that it would save taxpayer money, and that the idea started because of the concerns about unlicensed contractors. Cape Coral has already used an AI demo after Hurricane Ian to find roofs that were not repaired. The pushback that we're getting from the city right here is, well, yeah, but I'm going to tell you, people that are here on top of roofs don't want that because they're afraid their immigration status is going to be looked at. Other people say that it invites an invasion of privacy and that they're not agreeing on their property to be filmed by these AI cameras. So, like if I'm sitting out there in my underwear in the front of my house and the garbage truck goes by, should they be able to film me in my underwear right there? Does the city have a right and the government have a right to film me? They're saying they do. Do I like it? No. This just sounds too dystopian to me. Now, I understand. I'm not going to even side with people that are here illegally. Listen, you are here illegally. You may not like what the government is doing, but to me, that's not your choice to make. Just like we just talked about with TPS, that the system, the TPS system, I don't believe that Haitians and Syrians should have a say in that. Like, oh man, you really screwed us over. Listen, you're not a citizen of the United States. Citizens of the United States are the ones that determine the laws of the United States by voting in people that will help to make those laws. That is how I believe it should go. And so I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, well, you know what? The people on top of a roof are here illegally. So no, 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 let's protect them because of this. Not the way that I look at things at all. But I can also say that I don't like the fact of you looking at my yard and saying, that grass is not edged according to city standards. We're going to go ahead and take a picture of that, circle it on the AI image and send that check send that bill and that fine in the mail to that person. I don't like it. I think it's very dystopian, but I don't think that the public has a right to say no to this. We already have seen this happen before in toll systems, everyone. Like you go through a toll, and if you don't have the little transponder on, what does it do? It takes a picture of you. It takes a picture of you, or it takes a picture of your license plate. And then go through a red light camera. It'll take a picture of you. So, we already have allowed things like this. The difference here is going to be on your own property. People are arguing that it's because it's on your own property that it should be different. I don't think that the public is going to have much of a choice right here. I do believe that Cape Coral's probably going to put this in. Other cities have already done so. I believe it was Dallas, $850,000 they spent on AI cameras for trash trucks. They promised that pieces were going to be blurred and license plate were going to be blurred. But how do you really know that, right? Huntsville, Alabama, they dropped the plan actually after they got some pushback. I don't like the fact of trusting the government to blur anybody's face, because doesn't there have to be somebody who can unblur that? Just to me, it screams dystopian, and I don't much care for that right there. Our last story of the day takes us back here to Orlando. I said that we were going to be talking about this, and I wanted to save it for last because it is a very important story to this case or to this show. For those of you who are not aware, Millie Ortiz was a 92-year-old woman on her way home from bingo late at night, almost 2 a.m. in the morning, on January the 18th, 2026. She was going through Hoffner Avenue and Cimarron Boulevard as she moved her way with a green light through that busy intersection, or I should say large intersection. She was struck by a police cruiser. Millie Ortiz lost her life because of the crash. In June, state attorney's office said they would not be filing criminal charges against the officer. Prosecutors said he drove less than, and this is a big deal, everyone, 20 miles an hour into the intersection, and he did not drive recklessly, and that the emergency lights may have suffered a, quote, mechanical malfunction in the middle of the intersection. So they did not prove reckless beyond a reasonable doubt. Millie Ortiz, her family, has gotten together with Ben Crump, a civil rights attorney, and they are filing a $92 million lawsuit against the city of Orlando. I believe they're looking at three parties: Orlando Police Department, the company that maintains the city vehicle fleet, and the company that made the emergency lights. Trump said it will be filed in federal court. He gave no exact date. Ortiz's daughter, Judy Santiago, said, "We want justice for my mother. There has to be accountability," end quote. We had Chief Smith of the Orlando Police Department on our show. We have been covering this case extensively for the last couple of months. We said there should be more transparency, and we continue to stand by the need for transparency from the Orlando Police Department on this. I also want to mention this. There have been people that are taking constantly our clips with Orlando, OPD, Chief Smith are being taken and used. And the main clip that is being used is where Chief Smith on my show reiterates that the officer was going 20 miles an hour. And it come to find out the speed of the officer was 30 miles an hour. And this clip is being used over and over again to demonstrate that Orlando PD is somehow lying or covering up something within the case. I don't believe that, everyone. I don't believe that that is what the Orlando Police Department is trying to cover up, the speed that the officer was going. If you watch the video, it is clear the officer is sitting at a light. He flips on his lights, accelerates through an intersection. The lights go off about 2 to 3 seconds after he turns them on, and he slams into Millie Ortiz's vehicle. The officer stated that he believed stated that he was going through the intersection because he had saw somebody on the other side take an illegal U-turn and was going after that person. I guess he did not see Ortiz's vehicle, and the T-bones him right there. T-bones hurt right there. If the officer accelerated to 20 or accelerated to 30, I don't believe that has much of a weighing or bearing on this case right here. What I believe does is the fact that this vehicle should have been maintained much better. Chief Smith even said the vehicle had been sent in multiple times for issues, that the fleet is old. I think as well, we need to figure out what exactly that officer was doing. We still do not have film from the other side of the street to see if there was an illegal U-turn that was made. In addition, did that officer actually flip on his lights and those lights go out and get turned off because of a mechanical malfunction? Did he flip them on and then flip them off because he was just going through the intersection? These are things we need to understand about this case. Undoubtedly, people need to be held accountable for what happened to Millie Ortiz. What I am still unclear about and willing to give my opinion on is who should be held accountable. We don't have enough facts yet, but there is a mistake, and a grave mistake, that cost somebody their life, and accountability must be a part of the equation. I lean right now towards fleet management for the city of Orlando. Here's the reason why I believe they have the greatest accountability. Because somebody in that fleet management signed off on this vehicle. Somebody said, this vehicle works well, put it back out on the street. And when they did, if what we're saying is true and that this person turned on the lights and a mechanical malfunction happened, it is the person who signed off on that. That department needs to be held accountable for, why are you putting these vehicles back out onto the road that are not safe and cost somebody their life? But we don't know that information yet, so it is too early for us to make that judgment. That is the point that I want to make to you all. I have no problem with Millie Ortiz's family saying, hey, listen, we deserve justice for our grandmother and our mother, and they do. And accountability should be part of the equation right here. But we need to make sure that the right party is held accountable. And that's where, for me, I need to see that other side of the footage, and I need more information for what was going on inside of the car before I'm willing to go out there and put this show's name and the weight of our show behind something, and to say this is what we should be doing in this city, and this is what we should be prosecuting, and this is who we should be going after. We don't have enough information yet quite to know that. We know that there's a problem. We know that somebody screwed up. We just don't quite know who that individual is yet. I'll end by saying this. I believe that they are going to get financially compensated for what happened and the terrible thing that happened to their mother and grandmother, Millie Ortiz. And they should, because this is a terrible, terrible thing that has happened. I got to admit, though, Ben Crump, I've seen this guy for Orlando the last 20 years. I don't know how many cases this guy has been a part of. Personal opinion only. I think he's very good at getting people to pay attention to a case, not very good at actually litigating a case. And I worry if this case does go to trial, what kind of results the Ortiz family is going to receive with Ben Crump at the head of the case. I just, from me personally, he seems to be an individual that is an opportunist and somebody who will drum up press. And don't get me wrong, he does a good job of doing that. But there is going to come a time where you actually have to fight this in the courts, perhaps, unless there's a settlement that gets made here. I worry about how the family is going to, the results, I should say, the family is going to receive with Ben Crump as the attorney for the family. Not to say that they're not going to get something, not to say they don't deserve it. I'm telling you what my concerns are for the family. And I truly hope that the people who made this grave mistake are held accountable to their actions. If it's the Orlando Police Department, it should be the officer and the department itself. And yes, that does go all the way up to Chief Smith. If it's the people who manufactured the lights and that they put something together that they knew this could happen, then those people need to be held accountable. And if you're talking about the fleet management system and that you had somebody that went in there and signed off on something and put something back out on the road that was not safe for the public or the officer, then they need to be held accountable. And if all three of them screwed up, absolutely. People need to pay the price. Radical accountability is how we fix problems like this and make sure that they do not happen again. We are going to continue to follow this. I will continue with I Can to support the Ortiz family on this show because they are the ones who lost someone near. And let me be honest, Millie Ortiz just sounds like a beautiful person. All right. Everything that I've seen, the videos, the pictures, her way she interacted with her family, the dance, and she seems like a wonderful person. Taken from her family too early, far too early. And so there needs to be accountability here. Let's see where that accountability lies in the months to come. And then what we will do here is we'll do everything to make sure that that person or that entity or that group or department is held accountable for what happened to this wonderful person, Millie Ortiz. Folks, that is our show for today. It is Friday. We are cleaning things up around here. People around here, I can see some people are leaving out there as part of my team. I don't know, man. They're getting early Fridays or something. They want to go have a little fun this weekend. Maybe get a few happy hour beers early. It's 3:00 here on a Friday, everyone. I hope you have a great weekend ahead. I think there's some World Cup soccer. I don't know. Kind of seems like a little bit of a down weekend because last weekend was July 4th on Saturday. But right now, it's just a normal July weekend that we have here. Stay cool, everybody. It's supposed to be hot as can be. We will see you next week on Monday right here on the Patrick Carr Show. Have a great rest of the day.
I put up the first short if you want to take a look at that.
Yeah, of course.
Second one,